Hello everyone, Johnny Minder here, and today we are continuing to learn Japanese with FireRed. Last time we continued the additional intro, but didn't finish it. Finished Ox intro, we didn't finish the one exclusive to this game, but we did so for the original one present also in Pokémon Red and Green, in Japanese Red and Blue elsewhere. So today we'll first finish the additional intro, and then we'll continue playing the game because we finally started properly doing so. Hi Ringo, nice to see you. So we'll check out the rest of our house and then continue from there. But first and foremost, without further ado, let's continue the intro. And last time we had checked this part here. This is the previous time. And so today we only have this left, luckily. Let's start. As usual, on the top right, we have the usual commands for this part. A to for the next, B to go back. Sorry, let me do this. Not that it particularly matters, but here it says, Boken o tsujite samazama na hito to communication o torinagara seichou suru koto. First and foremost, we have Boken. We have already seen it. We've even studied its kanji thanks to Zelda to the Adventure of Link, unaccented, because it's a Chinese compound, as usual. Means adventure. After that we have the object particle O, written as one, pronounced as such in careful speech and also singing. Then we have tsujite, from tsujiru. This is interesting because it's a verb. Technically is a mix of we have a kanji, in this case tsu, so the Chinese reading, and then we have this jiru, here jite because of further conjugation, which actually simply comes from suru, with the voicing, because it practically becomes a compound, and we have seen the second word is of strictly Japanese origin, and we have seen that that often happens to those. Zuru, technically, actually zu originally, because Suru's classical form is simply su in its terminal. I'll start using that term instead of final, since final can be ambiguous. But the one found at the end of sentences, terminal form, also the dictionary form. Hey SKS, nice that you played a lot of Pokémon Red. I presume so, the original. Nice. My sister and I had Pokémon Blue. We shared it when it comes to the originals, and then we continue. Then we started with Gen 2 having our game and so on. But by the way, FireRed, as mentioned in the first part of this series, is the game I had also. My own game, but we also chose it for the kanji of Aka that we studied in the first part, and also we have a slightly more exclusive, also counting by leaving aside the Pokemon that we have already seen in Pokemon Snap. But yeah, as I was saying, Suru then became, because Suru was the attributive form, then that became the verb in general in Japanese, in contemporary Japanese. But yeah, here, instead of keeping that, it transformed into a Ru verb, Ichidan verb. From that, Zuru technically became Ji, so that it could become a Ru verb, Ichidan verb, as we see in a second. Okay, so despite this different form, this evolution, technically the origin is Chinese term, a kanji, with the verb suru. So yeah, considering that this kanji of tsu means pass through, this verb tsujiru has several meanings technically. The fundamental one, well, it also has the to pass, to get through to, can also be to, by extension then, to flow of liquid current, to lead to, by extension. Several other ones. We'll see which one is the best when we fully translate these. Well, it's worth mentioning that actually I think I should be able to find Tsujite potentially as is in the dictionary. Well, Tsujiru, by the way, unaccented. But yeah, if I search Tsujite on its own, technically, as we see, the form, it then is used actually kind of like an adverb, but as we can be seen, straight up is originally a the form. And yeah, we get it because, as mentioned, these jiru verbs, another typical one, just to make another example, is kanjiru, to feel. Because yeah, we have the kanji of kan, not the one present in kanji, but this one means emotion, feeling, sensation. And so yeah, plus this alternative form of suru, it means to feel, to do. Then in English we have to adapt it into to have a sensation, emotion, feeling, sensation. So yeah, to feel, to sense, and so on. Also unaccented, by the way, so good. But yeah, Ru verb is an verb, so we can simply drop the Ru to then add that to make the continuative form of the verb, and then attach the te to it to make the form of the verb. And yeah, despite that, technically, nowadays is, according also to the dictionary, is considered an adverb, tsujite, which means through, via, throughout, or through, all over. But yeah, the origin is that one, and yeah. The form in this case technically required would be with the meaning buying, doing the action of the verb, I'd say, or but yeah, let's continue. We see its best meaning as mentioned when we fully translate. Then we have samazama, which actually comes from sama, is the doubling of it. Sama you might have heard it before. I think we might have also mentioned it in a previous series. Its original meaning, well, used as a noun on its own, means state, situation, appearance, manner. Another of those words used for appearance, manner, in this case. But is also used, and you might have heard that usage, as the honorific suffix for a person's name or after a person's position. So yeah, just like son, most likely son actually an abbreviation of Sama, even though I don't think I've still found the confirmation of it. But yeah, Sama is the proper, actually honorific suffix for names. Yeah, can also be used technically to make certain words more polite in fixed expressions after a noun with o or go, the usual honorific prefixes. But we'll see that again. It was worth mentioning. But yeah, in this case with the doubling, it's most likely from the original meanings we have seen of appearance, state, and so on. So technically various appearances, states, and so on. But yeah, actually again is simply then used nowadays as various, varied, diverse, all sorts of. As for its accent, it's actually accented on the ma, on the first ma, samazama, so low, high, low, low. Unlike hiro, which is another word with a similar meaning as we have seen. But yeah, also notice the voicing of the repeated sama. Again, same. Technically, with this doubling, we get a compound, quote unquote, and the second part is voiced and is of strictly Japanese origin. But yeah, na adjective, and we have the na here, so various something. In this case, hito. Hito, by the way, the E barely heard if at all because it's between unvoiced consonants. We've already studied it, even its kanji. It means person is the fundamental word for person in Japanese. So various people. Let's say in this case, well, we have various, so of course plural. So yeah, various people. Then we have the particle to, with, so with various people. Then we have a communication. The word from English, communication. Let me find it to check its accent. In this case, it's quicker to write it with the English word. Of course, if I didn't. Yeah, with that I found it. Instead of writing the transcription, communication. Luckily, the accent is just like in English, so perfect on the K as expected. Communication. Yeah, there aren't particular changes to mention. Then we have the object particle again. Then we have the verb torinagara, from toru. I'd say in this case the most common one, simply to take, as we have seen, to get, well, simply to take, to pick up, to grab, the fundamental one, then by extension also to get, to obtain. U verb colon verb, so we can change the U into I to make the continuative form. In this case required because then we had Nagara. And so we get the used to make is a conjunction Nagara with the meaning while, during. Also technically while as in although, but yeah, more often than not, usually while as in during. That's the most common meaning. We had seen its accent. Let me quickly check. Okay, I got the physical dictionary to check once more. We have seen it once before, but I have to review it to be completely honest myself. The accent when you add Nagara to a verb. No, not these. Not these other ones, I think. Actually, I'll make it faster by checking out Nagara in the dictionary, and then it will point me towards that part. Because I think I do remember, but I want to be sure. And honestly, it's worth reviewing. Well, as usual, the tendency is that of course, there's also the matter that Nagara technically can be added to nouns. In which case, with unaccented nouns, it can be still unaccented or accented on the na. And that was what I was thinking of. With verbs, unaccented with unaccented verbs and accented on the na with accented verbs apparently. Okay, good. So yeah, actually pretty easy rule. But yeah, while taking, getting, well, literally taking communication, after that we have se cho, another Chinese compound, hopefully also unaccented. There are technically more se cho, more than one. The ei, by the way, read as long e by most, some still read it as pronounce it as a. But yeah, se cho. Most likely this is the most common one, which means growth. Technically a noun, yeah, unaccented like most Chinese compounds. Growth, development, growing up, becoming an adult. But yeah, fundamental meaning, growth. Literally, it uses the kanji for to become. Yeah, the kanji for naru, even though nowadays often naru is used without the kanji, but is found in such compounds at the very least. The one for cho is for the one for nagai, long. And so yeah, also in this case, literally become long, and so in the sense of growing, yeah, growth. A noun, but we can add suru, to do. We have already mentioned it today because of the evolution from in jite, tsujite. But yeah, literally would be to do a growth, to do growing up in this case better. And yeah, so to grow. After suru, we have koto, the nominalizer for verbs, thing as in matter. Contrast it with mono, thing as in an object, which we've already studied the kanji of the letter. But yeah. So yeah, the fact of doing, or simply we could say to do or doing, depending on the construction, growing, yeah, to grow, or growing. But yeah, after that, where it actually ends there, the sentence. And yeah, technically, it would, we could say implied then the copula, it's well, this usage, yeah, technically there should be a copula implied here. Yeah, here it's not explicit, but yeah. When you find this structure, the sentence and then koto da, it means you should, I advise you that you, or even better, I'd say it's important to, yeah, of course, all those meanings are actually implied. It's simply, it would be literally doing that, all that, it's and then implied important, even if we explicited the copula. But yeah, so yeah, that full translation should be I'd say then tsujite in this case is in its quote unquote adverbial usage. So yeah, in particular the one which means throughout the adventure, or an implied your adventure. It's important to grow. Well, it's important to yeah, to grow while taking communication with various people. I'm not sure if in this case it actually means technically, because of the previous part that it mentioned, I'll quickly show it on screen, the whole matter of talking to people and so on, to the NPCs in game, or actually in this case also potentially the communication with people in real life by connecting the games. But yeah, either way, yeah, this is the translation of this part. And yeah, then we have sore ga mottomo okina mokuteki desu. First and foremost, we have sore, part of the Kosodo series. We have ko close to both the speaker and the listener, so far from the speaker and close to the listener, a far from both. Do, the interrogative, koso are usually unaccented, do the accent on do itself. In this case, actually, so and I is worth mentioning that they can also be used in reference to something that is that has been said in general. So a concept that has been mentioned, or that people share knowledge of, and there's a technical distinction between the two. Ko usually is not used in that sense. Yeah, there's a distinction, but let's not focus on it for now. Here we have then re, so so re, unaccented, as mentioned, like most. Of of the kosoa words. With re, we get the demonstrative pronoun. So yeah, that or those, and that's it. That one, we could say also those ones, but yeah, not followed and not modifying a noun. It's that or those on their own. In this case, simply that, as what has been mentioned above. Then we have the subject particle ga. It's worth mentioning that we use the subject particle, in particular in this case, instead of the usual topic particle written as ha, because it specifies that it's that. So yeah, the focus is on that sore, technically. Otherwise, it would be a generic as for that, and then the focus would be more on what is said about that something. Yeah, here they want to, of course, focus on that being, and then we have the rest of the sentence. Mottomo, first and foremost. I think we might have seen it before in a previous series. Either that, yeah, I think, well, actually also motto, mo, technically. It comes from motto, motto means more. Let me find its accent, though. Think, no, actually accented on the mo, so motto on its own. Yeah, more, even though, as we'll see, again, I think we have seen it in part, I've mentioned it in part, it's not technically required in comparisons in Japanese when we have a comparison term, that's enough. But yeah, in this case, actually, we wouldn't have it. We could use motto instead to specify the more. But here we have actually motto, mo. That mo most likely actually the inclusive particle also even. So yeah, technically even more, but yeah, actually this motto, mo, this one accent on the to, motto, mo, so low, high, low, means most, yeah, by extension, of course, also extremely, yeah, the most. Then we have okina. We finally, funnily enough, seen it when we studied its kanji in this very series. It's the alternative form of oki, big, large, great. Yeah, it exists also this form with the na adjective, used only when we add na, in this case. Accented on the first o, okina. But yeah, the meanings are still the same, and both are used technically. So yeah, big, with that mottomo, the most, before it, the biggest. Then we have mokteki. We check its accent. Well, first and foremost, it's a Chinese compound. So it should be unaccented. Oh, but of course it could be one. No, it's actually accented. Perfect. So like most of those. The alternative is that it's accent on the first syllable. There are some exceptions that aren't either of those accents, but yeah, more often than not, unaccented or accented on the first syllable. Notice also the barely heard if at all because it's written on voice consonants, so mokteki, mokteki. It means purpose, goal, aim, objective, intention, motive also, but yeah, the fundamental meaning is purpose, goal, objective. Technical aim could be appropriate in this case because that teki in this case, in other cases that has different meanings, but in this one would be the original one, also of its strictly Japanese reading, which means mark, as in target. So yeah, then by extension, purpose, goal, aim, objective. Yeah, in our case, either of those. And last but not least, well, it's a noun. And so we have the copula in its polite form, des. Then we should have a period, but it's not present because of space limitation, clearly. But yeah, so the translation is that. So the focus is on that. Is your implied biggest objective, purpose, goal, aim, however you want to translate it. Yeah, last but not least, we have at the bottom, then with after that empty line, ボタンで始まります。And yeah, it's simply that array, as in then botan, button, unaccented. It's slightly different because it actually comes from Portuguese botão. Then we have the particle which means, in this case, with, as in the means, with the A button. Last but not least, we have hajimarimasu. Hajimaru, unaccented, to begin, to start, the intransitive form of the verb. As you have seen, we have also hajimeru, to begin, to start something, the transitive form. So the transitive in eru, the intransitive in aru, the intransitive most likely is a classical form of the passive again. So yeah, something is begun, is started, and then simply that something begins, starts. Yeah. Verb, Godan verb, hajimaru. So we can change the u into i to make the continuative form. In this case, to add the auxiliary mas to make the polite form of the verb. With mas in particular, the present or present used as the future affirmative form. Yeah. Begin. We could say you will begin with the A button. Yeah, so despite not conjugating it, here is, of course, it's telling you that it's still prompting you to press the A button to start. But yeah, with that, we have finally finished that. And so yeah, we can actually open the game and start that. I will play it some for. We'll start it and then we'll. And funny enough, finally we get to see this screen since all the other times we started from the beginning, so it wasn't present. We can quickly tell what is up here. the second option, we won't open it because we won't choose it because it says 最初から始める. Yeah. 最初 is literally the very start, beginning. We have this sign which is used for most. It's actually technically the kanji used for motomo, even though nowadays it isn't used for that usually. But it's used with this Chinese reading sign in such compounds. Actually, saisho unaccented is one. There are other ones which are accented on the first syllable. But yeah, literally most start, beginning. So yeah, simply beginning. Outset, technically, first onset. Then we have the particle kara, from. And then we have hajimeru, as mentioned, to begin, to start, the transitive verb. So yeah, start from the beginning. Yeah, we want to choose it, of course. We choose this option, on the other hand, which says Suzuki kara hajimeru. We have Suzuki from Tsuzuku. Notice that unlike most cases, here we have the tsu, the second tsu with the dakten for the sound zu. Nowadays, most of those are simply written as su with the dakten, but these ones where it's simply the origin is the repetition of clearly the first tsu repeated, and then with also the voicing, the dakten, as we have seen, like in Samazama. Then it's kept, and you have to be careful when writing it in kana. Not a problem when you write it in kanji, but yeah. Suzuku, unaccented, means to continue. U verb, godan verb, so we can change the U into I. Suzuki should be unaccented, but we'll check. It means continuation, then it's the continuative form used as the corresponding noun. So yeah, continuation. And yeah, unaccented. Perfect. Yeah, and then the rest is the same as the one we have seen at the bottom. So yeah, kara, from, hajimeru, start, begin. So yeah, start from the continuation. I shall, yeah, actually continue. Then we have, in order, from left to right, top to bottom, Shujinko, which we have already seen in this very series, a Chinese compound, in this case of two, not of just two kanji, but of three. Unlike most of the ones we have seen when I talk about Chinese compounds are two kanji. This one is a bigger compound of three. And so on, surpassingly, the accent actually changes. Is on the G. Shujinko, low, high. Yeah, low, only one, because she and the small u is a single mora. As we mentioned, that's the exception when it comes to moras. When we have a small ya, yu, yo, I, u, e, o, they form a mora with the previous kana. The other ones, each kana symbol is a mora, or beat, as they're called, haku in Japanese. But yeah, the accent is on the G, so yeah, low, high, and everything else low. We have seen protagonist, main character, so hero, heroine also. Yeah, protagonist. Of course, then we have the name of our protagonist that we have given him, Reddo, Red. Then we have Purei Jikan. Notice, by the way, that with Purei Jikan, we have first Purei in katakana, because it comes from play from English, of course. That only with the additional U, because the P can stay on its own, unlike the N we have seen above. Accented simply on the re, just play, just like in English, puree. Then we have jikan, a Chinese compound, should be an accented on its own, and it is. It means time, in general, technically. Can also mean hour, but in the sense of X hours. For example, 3 hours, san, jikan. Actually, then I think it might be accented, but I'll quickly check. Yeah, I got the other dictionary. The one with the table of numeral plus counter combinations. I think it's actually, it should be, yeah, on the G itself. So yeah, lucky it counts being not just one kanji, but two kanji. The accent is actually on the first mora of the counter. We'll see that when we add G on its own for hour in the sense of o'clock, for example, as we have said with the number 3, san, sanji, then the accent is actually before the G, can stay on the N, so actually moves on the sa, but yeah, it's right before technically the G. Yeah, here with jikan is always on the G, luckily. I'm quickly checking out if there are changes, but I don't think so. Yeah, I remembered correctly. But yeah, so time, play time, literally. And yeah, we have our play time. Then we have Moteiru, Baji. First and foremost from Motsu, to hold, technically in one's hand, to take, then still in that meaning, to carry. By extension, it becomes to possess, to have, to own. And yeah, like in our case here, technically it comes from to carry, could still be used, but yeah, in more general, I'd say to have, to own, in this case to possess. It's a verb, god and verb, so to make the te form, like in this case, we have to follow the rules. It becomes double, it's in su, so it becomes double consonant te. Again, because originally it most likely was, we made the continuative form, so change the u into i, mo, chi, originally simply mo, ti, but then they added the te, but then they fell mot, te, yeah, so in this case, straight up. Simply doubling of the consonant with the small su. Te form required because then we had iru on its own to be as into exist of animate things, so people and animals, but when used with the te form of verbs, it becomes an auxiliary with the meaning to make the a continuing action or state of that verb, to be doing the action of the verb, or to have add whatever the meaning of the verb was, so yeah, the state in the latter case. But yeah, here literally would be you are holding, and yeah, so actually then used as in to possess, And yeah, when used with the meanings to possess, to have, to own, even more so, we usually find it in the teiru form, because yeah, literally would be to be carrying, and then by extension becomes to possess, to have, to own. After that, we have a noun, so actually technically a verb in an attributive, in its attributive form and position. If it were a sentence, it would be a relative, well, if it were a clause before it, it would be a relative clause. We further modifying baggi. And yeah, baggi, of course, is the term for badge. Can't find it in the online dictionary, unsurprisingly, because yeah, technically not particularly used in Japanese, but yeah, clearly badge from I guess would be accented just like in English, so on the ba. Unfortunately, can't confirm it unless I can somehow find it in the physical dictionary, even though I have serious doubts. In the meantime, notice that we have also the doubling of the consonant in Japanese, so be careful about that. Baggi. Okay, actually found it. Technically, the accent would be on the ba, as mentioned, so just like in English. There are some, nowadays, a new pronunciation of it is unaccented, but yeah, honestly, keep it accented, and as it's more convenient, and that's the original form and the original accent anyway. After that, we have the number and ko. So yeah, it's actually the numeral plus counter combination. Ko, I'm pretty sure we have actually seen it before. Don't remember where. It's the counter for technically small, but more in general, actually, things or pieces. So yeah, technically should be specifically small things or pieces, but then actually becomes counter for things or pieces. So actually, kind of like a general purpose counter, but this one of Chinese origin, and so we use the Chinese numerals. Ikko, for example, number 1. Notice that from ichi, then it changes because of the changes. Most likely because it became the e file, or was actually never present when they wasn't present when they introduced the number into Japanese, because in Chinese it was actually ended with a t on its own. But yeah, I wanted to quickly mention the rule for ko. Let me quickly find it. Okay, here it is. Okay, the rule in general is before ko itself. Of course, in the example I made for 1, ikko, it can stay on the doubling of the consonant, so it actually moves on the e, but yeah, the rule is still that one before the ko itself. Oh yeah, actually no exceptions. Oh yeah, perfect, pretty easy. Oh yeah, so simply that. I'll press it. And yeah, we actually have this. And yeah, actually shows that. And also they pressed it again. And yeah, we have that. I'll actually save it. we'll quickly go through it. Technically, this, as we'll see, will be shown all the times you restart the game. But yeah, considering that, most likely we won't check it out always. But yeah, it was worth mentioning it at least once. Especially what it says. Well, first and foremost, at the top, it says これまでの あらすじ and the number 1, most likely pronounced 10 as its most common pronunciation on its own, so the Chinese one, 1, already mentioned. Yeah, first we have これ this or these, the demonstrative pronoun. Then we have まで up to, until. So yeah, up to this, most likely in this case, as in this point, or we could say by with a more free translation, up to here. Then we have the particle no, the possessive particle. In this case, actually used to connect that これまで to attach it. Yeah. But yeah, as I was saying, the possessive particle most likely is simply to attach that これまで to the following noun, あらすじ. And yeah, we have seen this usage of the possessive particle before. What interests us here is あらすじ. As it's a noun, actually a compound noun. It comes from ara. Actually, ara on its own, accented on the ra, on the final, on the last mora, the final mora. Well, on its own, technically, has some meanings like the remaining bony parts of a fish after filleting. Yeah, usually, as we can see actually here, technically used as a prefix with its fundamental meanings of the kanji, which are rough or crude, raw, natural, wild. Rough, I'd say the fundamental meaning. After that, we have suji, accent on the su on its own, so at the start. Suji literally means muscle, tendon. Can also mean actually vein, artery, technically. Fiber, string. And then actually several extended meanings. One of these, pretty common one, is reason, logic. So from those, the muscle, better maybe the fiber, we get the fiber of the reason of a reason, reasoning, the logic. In our case, actually, for by a similar extended meaning, the plot, storyline. So yeah, literally, arasuji, unaccented, so be careful, it's one of those compound nouns that end up being unaccented. We have seen other ones. It means literally would be rough plot or storyline. And so yeah, arasuji, the translations given by the dictionary, unsurprisingly, are outline, summary. Technically, also argument, as mentioned, because of that other meaning, but yeah, in our case, simply outline, summary. Then the number 1. Yeah. Yeah, there's also that issue mentioned by Ringo, but yeah. For now, let's focus on simply Arasuji as is here. Luckily, we don't have the problem of the kanji for now. And yeah, for example, here we have this Arasuji, this summary, first number 1 here, which says, Reddo wa pasokon kara dougu gusuri o hikidashita. And yeah, first we have Reddo, the topic particle wa, as for red, pasokon, which is the Japanese word for personal computer, PC. Yeah, it's the abbreviation of Pasonaru Computer. Yeah, nowadays you'll find it usually as Pasokon, unaccented. Yeah, notice that also in this case we have an abbreviation like of this kind. As I've mentioned, also we can find it in titles of anime, manga, video games, series, and so on. Personal computer on its own is technically accented globally on the più. So yeah, just like computer on its own, we keep the accent only of the second word. Personal on its own is accent on the pa. So yeah, just like in English, both. But yeah, we keep the accent only of the second one. As we have seen, usually is the tendency. There are, I think we found one exception, I don't remember which one, but most accent on the, we keep the accent of the second word. Yeah, PC. Then we have kara, from, again. We have dogu, which we have seen in this very series for the first time. A Chinese compound, one of those accented. This is actually an exception because I remember that it's actually accent on the last syllable, and it is, yeah. So yeah, be careful. It's one of those rare one of those exceptions, as we have seen, as mentioned. It means tool, instrument. Yeah, in our case, in the case of Pokemon games, simply items. Yeah, the items found and used throughout the game. Then we have Kizu Gusuri, which is actually, I don't think it's actually present as a word. Well, it should be present, maybe also in the dictionary. Yes, it is. It's a compound noun from Kizu, which I think is an accent, and that it is wound, injury, various extended kinds of wounds and injuries, so also cut, bruise, scratch, and so on. Fundamental meaning simply wound/injury. And then we have kusuri, unaccented also. Notice the U barely heard, if at all, of the ku, because it's between the voice consonants. Kusuri. It means medicine. Other extended meanings, but yeah, the fundamental one is medicine. Notice the voicing, because it's the second part of a compound. It's of strictly Japanese origin, and so even more so, it happens to those. And also being a compound, the accent of Kizugusuri globally is on the gu, so on the first mora of the second part of the compound, the typical spot for the accent in such compounds, as we have seen before. Then we have the object particle O. And then we have hikidashita from hikidasu, a compound verb. So actually we introduce it. We didn't have the time to check it out last time. We found it in the menu of the PC. It comes from hiku, which means to pull. Its fundamental meaning. It should be unaccented, but I'll check. Be careful because there's another hiku technically with a slightly different meaning. Well, actually, most likely the origin is the same, hiku, to pull, but that one with the different kanji is used to play a stringed or also keyboard instrument, because technically when you play the keyboard, well, actually better the piano, and then by extension the keyboard, you hit and pull strings, but yeah, usually used also, even more clearly used fundamentally for guitars and so on. But yeah, this one, the regular one, hiku, to pull, and so also to draw, also with extended meanings, to draw attention and so on. But yeah, to pull, to draw. We change it's a verb colon verb, we change the U into E, make the conjugative form, required then to attach the second verb part of the compound. Dasu, the usual one we have already seen, we studied even its kanji in the previous, in Super Mario World. On its own, to take, get, put out. But when used as the second verb part of a verb compound, there's two meanings. In this case, the easiest one, literally we add out to the meaning of the verb. The other one is to burst into, technically to begin, to start also, but yeah, more specifically to burst into, different compared to hajimeru, for example, as we say. But yeah, here literally out, and yeah, to pull, to take, to draw, out. Dasu on its own accented. Luckily, hikidasu also accented. Technically, the E of he should be barely heard, if at all, because it's between a voice consonant. So hikidasu. Yeah, so then of course, to draw out by extension then becomes to withdraw. Yeah, it's the typical function found in Pokemon games with PCs. Dasu and also hikidasu, U verb colon verb, so we can change the U into E to make the conjugative form, and then simply add the ta, to make the te and ta forms of U verbs colon verbs in su, it's we literally make the conjugative form and then add te or ta. Ta, so actually the past form of the verb in plain speech. So yeah, here it says, as for red, he applied, withdrew, pulled out an item, and then the name of the item, potion. Yes, I think I haven't mentioned it. Yeah, kizugusuri, yeah, literally medicine for wounds. So its meaning is salve, ointment, potion. And yeah, the classical potions of Pokemon games. An item, potion, from the PC. Ooh, didn't want to press that. Okay, yeah, let me quickly. Yeah, we have already seen this part. Oh yeah. Then technically, we have this final part, which will, I'd say, will actually take our usual break now. We'll check what it says here, as it will actually be the perfect introduction to what I wanted to see today, and we should be able to see when we leave the town. The name of the town, actually. So yeah, see you in around 5 minutes, most likely slightly less as usual, after the break. And we are back. Yeah, so we can continue. Oops. Yeah, actually from here. Yeah, to check this final part of the summary of the aらすじ, which should this one actually be the same, of course with some little changes, but this should be the usual standard at the end, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it says, そして、レッドはマサラタウンでレポートを書いたのであった。First and foremost, we have そして、we have already seen it before in this very series, I'm pretty sure. Unaccented, can find it on the online dictionary, wanted to verify it, but I'm pretty sure we have checked it with the physical one. As you can see, technically, originally at a form, but it isn't used as such. Nowadays, it's straight up considered a conjunction, which means with the meaning and then, thus, and now, and finally. And yeah, so. And then, again, we have red to wa, so yeah, as for red. And yeah, I stopped, I took the break before this, also because it was getting late, but also because I wanted to put our focus on Massara town. Because yeah, town, of course, simply comes from English, town. No changes. The accent is just like in English on its own, town. The name, Massara, is the name of this town. And yeah, so pallet town in English. And yeah, the origin of this one is pretty clear, even without checking, but I still did just to be completely sure. Most likely from Massara, with the doubling of the consonant when the actual word, the accent is on the sa. It means brand new. That Sarah is actually the S is additional. I'm pretty sure. Well, no, actually, it's no. In this case, sorry, is straight up present because it would be actually from Sarah ni. Well, Sarah on its own, then usually used as Sarah ni with the adverbial particle in this case. Adverbial particle, as already mentioned, could be originally the continuative form of the classical copula nari. But yeah, used either way, used to make adverbs. One of the most common ways to do so. Sarani specifically nowadays means actually further, more, again, after all, more and more. But yeah, actually, Massara could be written also with that kanji, better with the one nowadays used for new. But most likely it comes from that. The ma on its own, I think we've actually seen it before. When added as a prefix, it usually also has this doubling of the following consonant when available. But yeah, ma as a prefix means just right. Most likely originally actually then as a noun ma unaccented means truth. Cioè then by extension a prefix for pure, genuine, true. And then by further extension simply just right. In the sense of, I would say also exactly technically. So you can see better why it came from that then. But yeah. So yeah, then brand new. Yeah, would make sense because as we see, this is a brand new town technically. Bulbapedia, which is what I'm checking for the origins of these names, these proper names of Pokemon in Japanese, also suggests related to Mashiro, which means pure white. Notice again the ma with the doubling of the following consonant, and then shiro, we have seen the color white. Could be, since they're still similar, and there's also the matter that in the Game Boy Color it was the white town. But I'd say actually might be I guess they made simply because of the color, but yeah, honestly, most likely from Massara and that's it. What I wanted also to mention, and that's also why I didn't check this out before the pause, the break, is that locations in Pokemon games are actually inspired by locations in the real world. And so I actually wanted to mention which locations they are based on. Well, in this case, technically it's based on 2 locations. One, which is the locations it's based on as in the inspiration. And yeah, unsurprisingly, we have seen last time I mentioned, because we found Shigeru for Gary, the rival, I mentioned that the protagonist's name can be in the games, and straight up is in the anime. Ash's Japanese name is Satoshi, from Satoshi Tajiri, the creator of Pokémon, or better, the other way around in Japanese, of course, surname and then given name, Tajiri Satoshi. But yeah, so it's actually based on his hometown, Machida City, which is actually, so in Japanese, Machida-shi, which is actually located in the western portion of the Tokyo metropolis. It's worth mentioning that, yeah, the word for city in Japanese, strictly in Japanese, well, okay, it's the Chinese pronunciation of the term, but yeah, you get what, in the sense that it's not like in game we have town from English, but yeah, no, this is in Japanese, is she. I want to quickly check she on its own accented city, as mentioned. But yeah, I wanted to check the accent as a suffix. Okay, it seems that the accent luckily is always before she itself. Well, in this case, the example given in the dictionary is Osaka-shi. So yeah, with Osaka, pretty important city in Japan, which we would eventually find, not in this game, but if we ever get to play Gen 2 games. But yeah, luckily the accent is always before the C. The other inspiration is actually Shimoda City. So yeah, Shimoda-shi. Luckily again, with she, then the rule is simply regardless of the accent of the given name of the city. And good luck remembering those when it comes to lesser known ones, not the most famous ones. But yeah, luckily you would usually always add city in this case. So yeah, luckily you follow the rule of she as a suffix. So yeah, Shimoda-shi, low, high, high, low. But yeah, it's inspired also by that, because that's technically its specific location. So yeah, the location of Pallet Town in the Kanto region in Pokemon games, of Masara Town, I should say in Japanese, in the Kanto region, is more or less the same position of Shimoda-shi in the Kanto region. Yeah, the name of the region is actually the same name of the region in the actual region in Japan, in this case, is more or less in the same spot. So yeah, sometimes we'll find also additional inspirations, like in this case from Machidashi, because it's the hometown of Tajiri-san. But yeah, more often than not, we'll find usually the specific location, and that's it. And then it's based straight up also on that, also when it comes to its characteristics. Oh yeah, Shimodashi, it's worth mentioning that it's found in the Shizuoka Ken, the Shizuoka Prefecture. Prefectures are one of the most important subdivisions of Japan, political subdivisions. It's important for elections and so on. Yeah, so quite important. We'll check the accent of Ken on its own is accented, so on the Ke, the accent can stay on the N, on the moral nasal. But yeah, so let's actually check the accent of Ken as a suffix again. I think that it should be, but I want to see it before saying it. Yeah, again, luckily, another one that it's accented before Ken itself, just like she. So yeah, in our case, Shizuoka Ken. So yeah, low, high, 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 and then low, low for the Ken. But yeah, I wanted to mention, we'll actually check both the origin of the names of the towns, and in that case, actually, Bulbapedia will help for those as well, for the etymology with the guesses, but even more so with the locations in relation to the real world. But yeah. Then we have the particle de, in, at, used with most verbs. With verbs of staying, we would use ni instead, but yeah, here we have another verb, so de, in, at, Pallet Town, Masara Town in Japanese. The accent of Masara Town, I'm not sure in this case. My guess would be that we would keep the accent of town, also considering that it's the first syllable of the second part of what could be considered technically a compound. That's my guess. Unfortunately, I can't confirm it. But yeah. Then we have reporto. Report from English. I think we have seen it before. But yeah, notice the difference that actually the accent is on the po. So yeah, report, because of course Japanese doesn't change the accent of words that they've taken from English depending on their usage as a noun or a verb, like English does. So yeah, they got it with the accent on the po, and they kept it here, there, regardless, even though in this case it's technically the noun report. So yeah, technically report, in our case, of course, technically actually, as in for the saving, we could say technically a diary, but in other games, I think maybe also Pokemon games, or at the very least, I think I've seen it potentially in Pokemon card game GB2. So yeah, the second Pokemon TCG game on the Game Boy Color, since I played that in Japanese. It's only in Japanese unless you play the translation. I actually played both, I think, at least in part the English translation and then eventually in Japanese. But yeah. Anyway, here it says technically report. Then we have the object particle o. Then we have kaita from kaku. Means to write, should be accented. as we see technically, and I think we might have actually seen it, kaku can also mean to draw, usually with a different kanji, but the origin of the word is clearly the same. Unsurprisingly, since, remember that writing in Japanese, traditional handwriting, was quite related to drawing the kanji, or the matter of calligraphy, and straight up you used brushes. But yeah, kaku, regardless, but in our case, strictly to write, let's say. Verb, colon verb, it's in ku, so to make that a form, we have to, we change it into ita. Again, most likely first we change the u into i to make the continuity form kaki, and then add the ta, but then the k fell, and so ka, only the i remain, ka ita, kaita. Lucky the accent is on the third to last mora, specifically for te and ta forms in general. Luckily, so the same for verb, colon verb. It's in the case of verbs, Ichidan verbs, that it moves compared to the terminal or dictionary form of the verb. But yeah, here ta form, so past form of the verb in plain speech. Then we have no, the other nominalizer for verbs, thing as in fact, we could say. Here actually required, because then we had the copula, the aru, technically in this case. We have seen the aru in particular is a more formal copula, more often than not found in writing, like in books, as in, well, technically I think I've straight up seen it in dictionaries, Japanese dictionaries that I have, etymological dictionaries, for example, scientific books and so on. But yeah, in writing, of all those kinds of books, yeah, in general, formal. But yeah, despite this change in its, despite the change, yeah, it's the usual no da or no des. Literally, it is that. The fact is that. The explanation is that, and so on. Yeah, so the usual expression. Here we also have the change that, well, aru is a verb, colon verb. So to make that a form, like in this case, we have to follow the rules. It's in ru, so it becomes double consonant ta. Again, change the u into i to make the continuative form ari. Ari ta, but then the i fell. Ar ta, difficult to pronounce, so simply we can do doubling of the consonant atta. Yeah, so the translation is, and then, as for red, he, it is that he wrote a report, the report, we should say, the saving, of course, at Pallet Town. And yeah, after doing that, you actually get back to the game itself. And yeah, so we'll actually do so ourselves. And yeah, finally, we are back in the game. And yeah, we have already checked out the whole room, apart, of course, from the contents of the PC. We only got our potion, as we have seen in the summary. And by the way, while we talk, we've checked the summary fully in this case. Most likely going forward, we want to do so. I might translate it at least quick if I am able to do so quickly enough. I'd say we won't waste time checking all of those. But yeah, we finally went downstairs So we can check what's around here and speak to our mom here before leaving the house. Yeah, so we then go out in and start going around Pallet Town properly. First, the television, the TV. And yeah, in Japanese, well, it says here first and foremost, terebi de eiga o yatteru. And yeah, first and foremost, we have terebi. And yeah, this is the most common way nowadays in Japanese to call television, TV. And yeah, it's an abbreviation of telebi, terebi, television, television. And yeah, the accent of noticed by the way the b instead of v, because yeah, at the time Japanese didn't have it and they didn't change it for such common words. The accent of television on the b, it's like television. Terebi on its own, on the other hand, is accent on the first mora, so be careful. Terebi. High, low, low. Then we have the in at, technically. At the in. So then we have to adapt it in English on TV. Then we have ega, or ega if you still pronounce it with the a. Means it's a Chinese compound, so hopefully unaccented. I think it is. Oops, no, actually, sorry. This is one of those, and I've heard it before, I was simply forgetting. Accented on the first mora, so yeah, the second most common accent, but yeah, be careful. Ega means movie, film, motion picture. The ga, I think we might have seen it before for picture in general, picture, drawing, and so on. The before it comes from the verb which means to reflect, or reflection, projection, then by the nouns. So yeah, reflected, or even better, projected picture. Yeah, so unsurprisingly, then it's the term for movie, film. Then we have the object particle o. Then we have yatteru, from yaru, to do. So yeah, another form of suru. This one a colloquial term. They're doing, as in, of course, they're showing on TV. It's a verb called a verb. So to make that a form, we have to follow the rules. It's in ru, so yeah, again, double consonant there. Then we have this ru after it. Yeah, the form required because we have iru here abbreviated without by dropping the e. But yeah, still the continuing action or state. Simply, they're doing, as in they're showing, a movie on TV. Then it says, actually I think I can move it forward there, since that part we have already checked. We have this fully. It says, Otoko no ko ga yonin senro no ue o aruiteru. And yeah, first and foremost we have otoko no ko. Yeah, otoko, male. No, the possessive particle. Ko, child. Ko on its own unaccented, I think. Otoko, accent on the last syllable. And this is an exception because usually the no would make it unaccented, but here we keep actually the accent, so otoko no ko is accented just like otoko, the ko at the end. Yeah, literally male child, cioè, or children actually, as you'll see in a second. So yeah, boy or boys. We have seen it in this very series when we chose if we were a boy or a girl. Then we have the subject particle ga. And yeah, then we have the number 4 and nin, so yeah, a numeral plus counter combination. Nin we have already studied, even its kanji is the kanji for person. When we use nin, yeah, after we can use nin, its Chinese reading, one of its Chinese readings, as the counter for people, not with the number 1 and 2, because we use ri instead for those specifically. Be careful, ri is of strictly Japanese origin, so yeah, then it becomes hitori, accent on the to. The he barely heard the I barely heard if at all of he, because it's between a voice consonants. For the number 2, two people, futari, the accent is on the ri. Also the u barely heard if at all of the fu, same reason, between a voice consonants. Then, starting with the number 3, we move to nin. And actually, unfortunately, it's one of the more complex ones, because the accent, when it comes to the accent, because also technically some aspects beyond that, but when it comes to the accent, most actually, it's, well, part and part are accented on the ni of nin, other ones on before nin. So yeah, we have san nin, 3 people, accented on the ni. Yonin, be careful, we don't use shi, the Chinese reading, as usual, because it has the same pronunciation as the kanji of that, and even more so with people, we wouldn't use it. So yeah, we use yon instead, but in this case, actually, without the final n usually present, we use only yo. So be careful. The accent is still on the ni, yonin. For 5, gonin, same. And then, yeah, with the other number starting with 6, we actually move the accent before the nin, rokunin. Then we have shinin. For 7, yeah, notice that technically we should use in this case, and it actually isn't present in the dictionary, nana, so with the strictly Japanese numeral alternative. Maybe you might hear it, but either way, I'd say still accented before the nin, but yeah, technically you should use shinin. Then for 8, hachinin, still before nin. For the number 9, we technically have kunin, the first one given, so with the shorter Chinese reading of the number 9, ku, instead of q. Sometimes that happens, it's used instead of q. But in this case, the dictionary also mentions the alternative kunin. And notice that with the shorter ku, it's accented on the ni. With q, is accented before the nin. So yeah, actually, the rule, except for san nin, that's an exception then. But yeah, the rule is that when the number is short, it's literally a single mora, the accent is on the ni. When it's longer, except for san nin, then it's before nin. Because yeah, q nin, before the nin, and then last but not least junin, 10, also before the nin. But yeah, was worth mentioning, especially because of the yonin in this case. Also, we don't use yon full, so yeah, be careful. That's straight up a rule. And yeah, so numeral plus counter combination. Notice that it's after the noun and its particle. And yeah, that's the other typical spot of numeral plus counter combinations. The other one we have seen simply putting that before the noun itself with and followed by the possessive particle not to attach it to the noun. Yeah, these are the typical spots for numeral plus counter combinations. Then we have senro. We check its accent, but it means railway. Yeah, accent on the first syllable, so it was correct. Senro. Railway track, railway line, even better technically, because sen means a line. Technically then also track by extension, but yeah, the fundamental meaning of sen is line. So yeah, railroad, railway, track, line. Then we have the possessive particle no, ue, unaccented, it means up or top. We have to even study this kanji. Then we have the object particle o, and then we have aruiteru. From aruku, I think accented, but we'll check. It means to walk. Yeah, technically usually used as an intransitive verb, simply to walk, but can be used actually with an object, as we can see here, as in walk. Well, in this case above, as we'll see, because of that. Usually it means to walk through something, through a place, with the object particle. But yeah, aruku, yeah, accented. Verb golden verb, it's in ku, so that the form becomes ite, as we have already seen today. And then the form required because we had ru, actually iru, so a continuing state or action. So yeah, then the suspension dots. And yeah, it says that for, we have to adapt it in English, 4 boys are walking on top of railroad tracks, lines, however you want to translate that. So yeah, actually I think it's how it's called, I think Stand By Me, the movie. Yeah, it's the movie Stand By Me. I looked it up just to be sure. Yeah, it's a scene from that movie. Although, funny enough, I learned about it because of Pokémon, first and foremost. But yeah, simply that translation. And then, yeah, after other suspension dots, it says actually what our protagonist is thinking. Bokumo mo ikanakia. First and foremost, we have boku. I'm quite curious then what the accent, what pronoun would be used if you were a girl, because technically you could still use boku, but boku is the first person pronoun, first person singular pronoun I, male term or language technically. There are some girls that use it in fiction, technically, potentially real life, but then they are the so-called bokuko. Yeah, they're usually tomboys. But yeah. I wonder, because most likely it would change, would be my guess, if you were playing as the girl protagonist. Unfortunately, we picked the boy, so we have Boku here. Then we have the inclusive particle mo, so also even. Then we have mo with a longer vowel, so yeah, be careful, because here we have an example of the distinction of a minimal pair in which vowel length matters. So I distinguished the meaning. Yeah, we have the mo short, the inclusive particle, also even. Mo with a longer vowel means it's an adverb, which means already, yet, and so on, by now. By extension, then also soon, shortly. We've seen also another meaning, further, more. Yeah, in this case, simply let's say more than already, actually soon. And then we have this ikanakia, which is short, but it's actually quite complex technically, because it comes from iku, to go, u verb, godan verb, unaccented by the way, iku, ugu verb, godan verb, so we can change the u into a to make the irrealis form, the not yet state form, by translating its Japanese name, used mostly in contemporary Japanese for the negative by adding then nai, the adjective, which means non-existent, and so yeah, used also to make the negative verbs after the irrealis form. But here we don't have nai on its own, we have this na kya. It's a contraction of na ke re pa. We drop the i of the adjective to add originally ku, the adverbial form, and also used for further conjugation of the adjectives. Then we would add originally aru, because aru is used for the conjugation, then to conjugate aru itself. Aru, u verb, godan verb, so we will change the u into e to make technically called realis form in the already state, as in we could keep it as the yet, well, better no, yeah, the already state form of the verb. Nowadays, in contemporary Japanese, simply called as the conditional form, because actually it's usually used with ba, one of the forms, one of the ways to make the conditional in Japanese. Well, in this case, actually, first we would actually aku, a, re, yeah, we would then add pa. To make the conditional, or also technical temporal meaning in other contexts, if, when, just like in English. This is the closest one to the first conditional. But yeah, here let's focus on the conditional. naku areba, technically, then actually gets contracted and is how it's usually used nowadays. We don't use naku areba, but we use na ke re ba to make the negative, the conditional form of nai, and so of the negative form of verbs. And then there would an implied narimasen or ikemasen. We'll focus on those again, but literally they mean it doesn't become, implied, a good thing, or it can't go, implied, well. So yeah, we focus on those when we find them explicited, just to. But yeah, literally would mean if you don't do the action of the verb, it doesn't become a good thing. It doesn't go well. So it's actually one of the ways to make must. In Japanese, you have to do the action of the verb. Really long, especially in its full form. Ikanakereba narimasen. Ikanakereba ikemasen technically also, but yeah, usually with narimasen in this case. So unsurprisingly, then they simply imply the narimasen part, and the na kereba, the kereba, gets contracted into kya. Oh yeah. So yeah, here the translation is even me, if I don't go soon, it's no good. So yeah, I have to go. Even I have to go soon. So yeah, let's continue. And yeah, so unfortunately we're running out of time, but let's at the very least finish the house here and talk to our mother. But yeah, I was checking this. First, we have yeah, it says here Ironna shokki ga kirei ni narande iru. First, we have Ironna. We have already seen it in this very series. It comes from Iroiro, in particular Iroiro na, with also the na, because it's a na adjective. Comes from Iro, accented on the last syllable in its own color. With the doubling of the word, similar to samazama, we get various, most likely original colors. Nowadays, simply various. Yeah, it's another one of the those other words with the same meanings as with a similar meaning as samazama, which we have seen today. Iroirona gets contracted then to make it shorter into ironna, same meaning still. So various, something which is shokki. Shokki is a Chinese compound. I think accented on the first syllable in this case. Nope. Unaccented, so never mind me. So regular. So the most common accent. Shokki actually comes from shoku and then ki with the two kanji. But then, yeah, the u most likely fell because, simply we had a double k. It often happens when we have a final ku or ki, usually ku actually, then followed by another k, or in general, usually when followed by another k, but we'll see that again with other practical examples. But yeah, literally, shoku, I mentioned it also because it's the kanji for to eat. ki is the one for utensils. Other meanings, but in this case utensils. So yeah, unsurprisingly, utensils to eat, it's tableware. And yeah, then we have the subject particle ga. Kire, as we have seen also last time, I think. This one accent on the first syllable. It's an adjective. It means pretty. It's of street. It's a Chinese compound, but one of those accent on the first syllable. Yeah, it means pretty, lovely. Can also then be clean, clear, pure, tidy, neat. Yeah, better in our case. An adjective. So in this case we can add ni instead to make it the adverbial form. So yeah, tidily, neatly better maybe. And yeah, by the way, using ni in this case, considering that it was an adjective, is one of the reasons why I suspect it might actually be the continuative form of the classical copula nari, which is actually the origin also of na adjectives. Would be naru, the attributive form of the copula, and then simply the ru fell, so na remained. But yeah. Then we have narandeiru from narabu, which I think it was an accent. Yes, it is. Narabu means to line up, to stand in a line. Other extended meanings, but yeah, this is the fundamental one, to line up. It's a verb called verb, so to make that a form, we have to follow the rules. Ping in bu, it becomes de. Again, first and foremost, most likely, we change the u into i to make the continuative form, then add te, nara, bi, te. But then the i fell, and so only b remained. But that b, as mentioned before, what are nowadays simply voiced consonants, used to be prenasalized in classical Japanese, so mbu. And so actually, then it remained as mb. And so actually, that's from where we get the n. And then that actually influenced the following ted, which became voiced, but actually voiced and prenasalized. So actually, with that nde would be, and so yeah, with the before it. And then we have the form usually with, as usual, with then iru, sorry, continuative action or state. So yeah, simply various tablewares are lined up tidily, neatly. Hang on. Let's check the sync. Yeah, here it says, first and foremost, I nioi ga suru. First and foremost, we have I, the usual adjective we have seen so many times, since it's quite important. I or yoi. Yoi is the original form, nowadays used only when conjugating. We use I, as we can see here, on its own. Good, several extended, nice, and so on. Yeah, fundamental meaning good. So good something, which is nioi, comes from the verb niou, which means to be fragrant, to smell. Usually, depending on the kanji, we have then the meaning to smell good with another kanji to smell bad, so to stink. Yeah, in general, nyo, to smell, as in something smells good or bad. In our case, of course, good. It's a verb, codant verb, so we can change the U into I to make the continuative form, nioi. We check its accent in a second. And so continuative form used as the corresponding noun. So yeah, smell. Smell, then scent, odor, stench if used for a bad smell. Be careful though, because instead of being accent on the last mora, is accent on the O. I'd say maybe because it's simply considered oi a diphthong in this case. Could be, that would be an easy explanation to explain why there's this difference. Yeah, the accent is on the O, even for the noun nioi. But yeah. Then we have the subject particle ga. And then we have technically the verb suru, to do. And yeah, when we use this structure ga suru, like for example with a smell, in our case a good smell, of course it's not literally to do, it's in the sense that it it emits, or even better, it's sensed, because yeah, it's used with smells, noises, and so on. Oh yeah, we adapt it simply. This it emits a good smell. Then we can continue. Nanika ryorio tsukutta ato mitai. First and foremost, we have nanika from nani, what, the pronoun, the interrogative pronoun. When we add ka, technically the interrogative particle, we get the corresponding some word. With what, it becomes actually something. We use the interrogative particle, unsurprisingly that the interrogative particle adds this meaning to interrogative words if you consider that when we say the some word, someone, something, it's an unspecified one, thing, and so on. So yeah, most likely that's the reason why. The accent luckily is on the na, like nani on its own. So something technically. Then we have ryori. It's a Chinese compound, means cooking. Technically, then by extension, cuisine, food, dish. Accent on the first syllable, so it's one of those. Ryori. Then we have the object particle o. Then we have tsukutta from tsukuru. Should be accented, but we'll check. It means to make, to produce. It has actually more than one kanji depending on what is made, produced. In this case, actually for food, I think you simply use the most common one. But yeah, to prepare, in our case, food. But yeah, the fundamental meaning is to make, to produce, accented as mentioned. it's a verb code and verb, so we have to follow the rules. It's in rules, so it becomes double consonant ta. And so to make the past form of the verb, in this case actually followed by then ato. So technically it would be a relative clause modifying the following noun. Ato, I think we have seen it before, means behind, rear. More often than not, actually by extension, then after, later. But yeah, so actually, it's technically relative clause plus noun. We simply translate it in English as after doing the action of the verb. Can be used on its own like this. Otherwise, in this case, we would add the as the particle, but we see it again when we find it. Doesn't change the meaning, even with the particle implied. And then we have mitai. In this case, most likely actually from miru. To look, to see, to look at, to watch. Ru verb is stem verb. So we can drop the ru to make technically the continuative form of the verb, to then add tai, an adjective, an auxiliary adjective in this case, which means is used to for the meanings want to do, would like to do. And so yeah, that is a desiderative form of the verb. Oh yeah, the adjective, so it's perfect as is in plain speech. So yeah, here it says after preparing something, we have to adapt it in English, or some food. I want to see it. I want to see what it's made. But yeah, unfortunately we don't have, we already went beyond our usual time. So we'll actually talk to our mom next time and then finally leave the house. Yeah, so we'll actually save here. And yeah, you might recognize here, if you remember it from before, repoto, of course if you know the katakana, we check all these options, the explanations there in the future and also here. But yeah, for now we'll simply save, yeah, of course the usual overwrite our current save. And yeah, we saved, so we can close the game. And yes, so today we've finally finished the additional intro, so all the intros. We continued the game, but yeah, before that we checked our first summary, in-game summary. So we got to see how those are. Again, we want fully explain them. Maybe I'll translate them on the fly. But yeah, then we went downstairs. We checked out, I think, everything, unless the plants count, I don't remember, except for talking to our mom. We'll do so next time, and then leave the house and go around Pallet Town, Masara Town, in Japanese. Yeah, next time we should be on Friday as usual, unless plans change. And yeah, see you next time.